and helped lead the charge this session to make Minnesota the first state to ever legalize drug paraphernalia.
This is a first-in-the-nation provision, and when I say first-in-the-nation provision, it is the only law that legalizes all forms of drug paraphernalia. It legalizes all drugs contained in that paraphernalia as defined as residuous drugs.
Now that's Edward Crumpetich of Grand Rapids, who pushed to make syringes and any small doses of drugs found inside legal in Minnesota. It's part of the public safety bill signed by the governor Friday. As Northern News Now's Cara Kopp explains, harm reduction organizations are calling it a monumental provision.
A law in a new frontier of the war on drugs.
I contracted HIV from a used syringe. I had been using methamphetamine since the age of 19. I was a high school history teacher, and I got this scar on the streets of Minneapolis.
After his experience with 30 syringes, now sober Edward Crumpetich turned to public policy, forming a harm reduction coalition in support of this new legislation, sending a new message, one of recovery and prevention.
We have a large rise in infectious diseases. Duluth, for example, had an HIV outbreak.
A primary factor, sharing syringes during injection drug use.
Really, it started showing up again in 2019. And it's not a huge number, but even just in the past year, it's gone up about 20. And I think the main concern is if you're the ones you are seeing, there's a whole bunch of people you're not seeing.
An outbreak Duluth's Harm Reduction Sisters is all too familiar with.
We take in over 20,000 used syringes in a month, but we still have people that are afraid or leery to bring them to us because of the residue in the syringes.
Northland harm reduction programs understand the concerns some have, but say it's time to face reality. People are dying and a change needed to be made. According to the CDC, syringe service programs lower infectious diseases by 50%.
If you visit a syringe service program, you are 5 times, per the CDC, 5 times more likely to enter drug treatment. That is incontrovertible.
Crumpetich saying old policies kept people in the shadows, enabling drug use by not allowing providers access to them.
As somebody who has used substances for a long time, that may not have happened if I had access to a syringe service provider.
Advocates say this might be the first real step in facing Minnesota's opioid crisis. In Duluth, Cara Kopp, Northern News Now.
And that new law goes into effect August 1st.
Wow, that's some deep stuff right there, bro. I had to share that with y'all, you know what I'm saying? Thanks for joining me on my channel. If you ain't did it yet, you know what I'm saying, go ahead and subscribe, you know what I'm saying? It's free. If you ain't subscribed yet, you know what I'm saying, take a minute at a time, you know what I'm saying? Take this little time out to go ahead and like it while I get this article ready for you. Now it says in Duluth, Minnesota, Northern News Now. This is the first in the nation's provision. And when I say first in the nation's provision, it is the only law that legalizes all form of drug paraphernalia. Now, the guy, Edward Crumpetich, the Upper Midwest policy led with the National Harm Reduction Coalition. It also legalizes all drugs contained in that paraphernalia defined as residual drugs. Now, a first-time provision that is exactly what it sounds like. Syringes and any small doses of drugs found inside are now legalized in the state of Minnesota. Now, this was signed by the governor, Tim Walz, Friday. That public safety bill also legalizes all form of drug testing, allows syringe service providers to dispense sterile needles, and removes caps on the number of syringes pharmacists can sell people without a prescription. Now, harm reduction experts calling the monumental law a new frontier of the war on drugs. I contracted HIV from a used syringe, said Crumpetich. I have been using methamphetamine since the age of 19. I was a high school history teacher. After his experience with the dirty syringes, now sober Crumpetich turned to public policy, joining a harm reduction coalition to support this new legislation, sending a new message, one of all recovery and prevention. We have a large rise in infectious diseases, said Crumpetich. Duluth, for example, had an HIV outbreak. Now, a primary factor sharing syringes during injection drug use. Really, it started showing up again in 2019. It's not a huge number, but in the past year, it has gone up about 20%, said Jeannie Swanson, who sits on the board of directors with Harm Reduction Sisters. The problem is that with the ones you are seeing, there are a bunch of you that are not seen. An outbreak in Duluth's Harm Reduction Sisters is all too familiar with. Now, we take in over 20,000 used syringes a month, but we still have people who are afraid to bring them to us because of the residual in the syringes, said Marcia Gurnall, a health educator with the Rural AIDS Action Network. Now, Northland harm reduction programs understand the concerns some have, but said it is time to face reality. People are dying and a change is needed to be made. According to the CDC, syringe service programs lower infectious diseases by 50%. Now, if you visit a syringe program, you are 5 times more likely to enter drug treatment, said Crumpetich. That information is incontrovertible. Crumpetich said old policies kept people in the shadows, enabling drug use by not allowing providers access to them. Now, as someone who used for a long time, my disease may not have happened if I had access to a syringe service provider, said Crumpetich. Advocates telling us this may be the first real step in facing Minnesota's opioid crisis. And a new law goes into effect August 1st. Now, you heard it here probably second, I'll probably be the first person, but now this is in Minnesota, so don't go out there and get to grabbing a whole bunch of drug paraphernalia thinking that you're safe when the police pull you over and you got something on you. But until next time, thanks for checking in with me. And like I said, if you ain't took the time out to press that like button, go ahead and do that right now. And till then, if you like with the content and the stuff I'm talking about, trying to keep you guys informed with, don't hesitate to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Thanks for watching. Peace.